Thank you everyone for coming to the 2022 investor presentation for 3DX Industries. My name is Nicholas Coriano. I was brought on to 3DX to help with the consolidation of the manufacturing sector by executing our roll-up strategy. This is our safe harbor statement. Take a second to read this over, and then we'll proceed. I went to business school at the University of Connecticut and received my law degree from the University of Illinois, formerly the John Marshall Law School. For 10 years, I've been on the other side of these presentations, attending microcap finance and investor events from New York to Los Angeles. And I don't know how many events I've attended, but I've left many of them not knowing or having any sense of what the company did or how the stock I could potentially purchase would appreciate in value or make me money. So I want to start and end with the simple concept of how 3DX Industries is building shareholder value, the corporate roll-up. Specifically, 3DX Industries is rolling up the manufacturing sector in America. We are accomplishing this by buying and consolidating companies that have both additive and subtractive capabilities with a hint of real estate. For the past 3 decades in America, they pushed the younger generation to go to college, not to work with your hands. Fast forward to today, and we have a shortage of plumbers, carpenters, and CNC operators and machinists. At the same time, the baby boomers in America were building great manufacturing businesses, not realizing they would have no one to sell it to in the future when they retire. This has culminated to the perfect opportunity. There are manufacturing businesses in America today that can be purchased for 50 cents on the dollar. And the people that know how to operate these businesses, the limited number of CNC operators that did decide to work with their hands, do not have the money to purchase them. And the people with the money to invest do not know how to operate them. Thus, our 3DX roll-up strategy. It's simple, but I digress. Let me tell you how we came to this conclusion and why it makes sense today. Our legacy business. The business I walked into just over a year ago today is this undervalued business I just mentioned. I walked into a business that literally had millions of dollars in machinery, and when I looked at the balance sheet, it stated just north of $250,000 in assets. Now, regardless of whether this was due to depreciation or favorable accounting practices, it was pretty easy for me to see the undervalued assets in the machinery the business held. The 3D metal printers on the used market were going for $200,000 each, and I had not even begun to add up the subtractive CNC machines, the tooling, the lathes, and the metal sitting around all over the shop floor. If a public company could have this much undervalued assets sitting on the floor of their shop, could the private sector be the same? The big problem had been brewing for years. Specialization moves production of manufactured goods to where overhead and human capital was cheap, predominantly Mexico first and eventually to Asia, leaving what they termed the Rust Belt in the United States. The manufacturing problem further explained. The further exacerbation of the problem, there was a declining pool of human capital willing to work at these manufacturing facilities. And many of them, unlike ourselves at 3DX, did not invest in newer technologies to make manufacturing effective in America. An example, 3D printing, robotics, AI, and other lean manufacturing processes. The solution as 3DX sees it is simple. Consolidate the best machine shops in the nation, those that have proprietary methods and have invested in newer technologies and have a hint of real estate, which is important to our book value, to build an operation that can compete at scale. Again, simple. Combining these businesses has multiple advantages. The multiple advantages include cost savings from integration of functions such as accounting and marketing and corporate sales, cost saving of bulk purchases when ordering material, the leveraging of the existing database of customers to convert these manufacturers' needs to additive manufacturing, the leveraging of consolidating human resources across the machine shops acquired, the reorganization of machinery to optimal facility layouts, the sales of excess machinery to fund expansion initiatives, the formation of a new real estate holding company to house the new real estate held via acquisitions. This is important as the manufacturing business historically was burdened with long lead times for payments, and supplemental revenue from real estate is used to keep the shops running while waiting for payments. Our current acquisitions. This sounds great in theory, and it worked even better in practice. Less than a year after our initial business plan to roll up the manufacturing sector, we have traction. We acquired a portfolio of patents and brought on AJ Bredberg to lead our R&D division. We acquired Specialty Metal Works, a machine shop in Washington, close to our Ferndale facility, and Homescape LLC, a real estate holding company with land and buildings in 5 states. A firm focus on book value of real estate assets and undervalued machinery was critical in these initial acquisitions. Acquiring is easy. Making it work together is where the fun takes place. And our roadmap shows exactly how we've done this by integrating our partnership with the University of Bridgeport to retain new human capital and beginning to fuse together the front and back offices and front office functions at our current acquisitions. Let's discuss the last 2 acquisitions. Specialty Metal Works, LLC. Specialty Metal Works, LLC in Blaine, Washington is a production CNC and fabrication job shop. They specialize in machine casting, automotive serpentine belt pulleys, food processing equipment, machine components, marine components, heat exchangers, industrial elevator and crane components, and concrete processing equipment. There are videos on our Twitter of me walking around the property and discussing how much drill bits cost. I walked into this facility and got so excited. There was metal everywhere, dozens of machines, thousands of tools, and 5 acres with cars littered outside. Assets. I love it. The house on the property is valued at what we paid for the entire deal. We basically got the machine shop for free. Here's a screenshot of the property on the bottom right and the reasons why we acquired it on the left in bullet points. It may be a good time to mention that the deal terms to purchase these businesses are kept pretty uniform. A small down payment is made in shares of 3DX stock to the seller, and the remaining balance of the purchase price is due within 3 years. Revenues, expenses, assets, and liabilities are reported immediately upon the closing. This allows 3DX 3 years of credit building and income reporting to be able to use the assets of the target businesses to pay off the owner later. We get all the benefits today and pay for it tomorrow is another way to put it. It's worth to mention that our first acquisition completed within 6 months of the reboot of the consolidation, of focusing on consolidation. To that point, I have been working part-time. I had semi-retired myself at 37 years young by building a real estate portfolio in upstate New York and writing thousands of business plans for clients via investor relations services I built. In law school, I have built out a collection of e-commerce businesses selling everything from products to services. In 2012, I took my student loan money and began purchasing raw land after the most current real estate crash. This jump-started Homescape LLC. Over the next decade, I built a pretty cush life for myself. The e-commerce businesses allowed money to come in from no matter where I was located, and this allowed me to move to opportunities where there was distressed real estate for sale. In the picture, you can see some of the buildings we own. This is now part of 3DX. This fits right in line with our focus on acquisitions that have a strong book value and recurring income. The e-commerce businesses fall right in line with how we plan to innovate as we consolidate the manufacturing sector. As we purchase these undervalued manufacturing businesses, we are turning their business model on its head, at least in part. Traditionally, manufacturing businesses get a call, spend time on a bid, win the bid, start production, end production, ship the part, and get paid 30 to 60 days later, sometimes 90 days, depending on how big the client is. What a horrible business model. It reminds me of the hamburger guy from the Popeyes movie. I will gladly pay you tomorrow for a hamburger today. How about you pay us today? The smallest innovations in the right area of business can have the maximum effect. If you walk into any machine shop, as we have done, you'll find on the shelf, you'll find a little shelf. And the machinist will show you all the most complicated parts they made, which are presented on this shelf with pride and joy. And he always pulls out the most complicated part and shows it to you and tells you how hard it was to make. And I always look at them and say, you probably weren't profitable, were you? And we both laugh. We don't have to make complicated parts, although we can. We need to make highly profitable items. E-commerce allows us to do this. On the right, you see some of our bullion product that we started making. And these are just some bullet points of other things we sell: metals, alloys, bullion, recycled metals, and of course, of patents and products that we develop internally. To assure you how bullish I am on e-commerce, upon graduating law school, I turned to my mother and said, that I would not be taking the bar exam to focus on building online businesses. She thought I was crazy, but I knew where the world would go online, and I was obsessed with the potential. It has gone online. It continues, and e-commerce is only in the third inning of a 9-inning game. There are about 8 billion people on Earth, and only half have access to the internet. We are early, and as these people get online, e-commerce is present before traditional brick and mortar options. Again, pictured as our bullion, simple to make, easily dominated through search engine optimization and very low competition. Before we leave this slide, a reminder about the safe harbor notice statement at the beginning of this presentation, as I shared to you the 10-20-year vision. If you look out 20 years, I believe that you'll go on sites like Amazon or eBay. You'll see a picture of a metal or plastic product. You'll press buy now. That order will get shot to a 3D printer and get shipped directly to you. I think it's the next version of on-time demand. And we plan to partner with major e-commerce players like Amazon, Alibaba, Etsy, eBay moving forward. But this is a 10-20-year vision. So back to today. Today, we've expanded in every way possible. We started a government, in addition to our e-commerce strategy, we created a government contracting division. Government contracts represent trillions of dollars in manufacturing jobs, with numbers rising yearly. We recruited Mr. Harold Blackwell, who is leading the charge there. Our 3DX growth strategy is simple, not to beat a dead horse, but again, we keep it simple. The simpler the business plan, the easier it is to execute. Our target is 1 acquisition per quarter, and the effects of these acquisitions are simple. Each acquisition bolts on revenues and increases cash flow. Each acquisition brings on new real estate and machinery assets that strengthen the balance sheet and give us leverageable assets. Each acquisition brings on more human capital, which allows us to grow our management and team. And each acquisition brings our overall cost down by exploiting synergies and business integrations. And we have traction. The awesome part about what we have figured out is that we have no barriers in the way to stop progress. Here's a few things we've done in the last 12 months. We built a NASDAQ caliber dream team. We purchased another 3D metal printer from X1. We acquired a patent portfolio, the acquisition at Specialty Metalworks that came with real estate. We opened up an office at the University of Bridgeport. We reached over 2 million views on social media, and that number is climbing. We received an over $2 million capital commitment, in part from RB Capital. We launched the government contracting division, and we acquired the real estate portfolio of Homescape LLC. Here's us by the numbers. These numbers do fluctuate. Check OTCmarkets.com for the latest number, our stock ticker DDDX. But in general, we have a tiny float of 42 million, unrestricted shares of 44 million, and restricted shares of 52 million. Our market cap is tiny at 5.6 million. We believe we are completely undervalued, and all management employees are currently buying on the open float, in addition to being long-term shareholders via restricted shares. So internally, how we think about growth is pretty methodical. We've been pretty methodical in our acquisition timeline and values. Once you have 1 million in assets, it's pretty simple to lever it to get 2 million, and from 2 to 4. The entire 3DX team has heard this from me 1,000 times. This is going to be easy, guys. 2, 4, 8, 16. Do me a favor and let's not tell them that I keep brainwashing them with repetitiveness, but it does work. Again, simple. We started with 200,000 in assets. The first acquisition gave us 2 million in assets. Homescape LLC gave us 4 million in assets. We have an LOI for another acquisition that'll get us to 8 million. 16, 32, 64 is projected by the end of the year. 64 million in assets. A side note, we're targeting a 10% annual return on the assets after integration takes place. A visualizer assets, I love them. I love them. I love them. Here are a set of collage of photos of some of the assets we own. I love to be able to touch, trade, and exploit the assets that we own to arrive for maximum shareholder value. So you'll see some of the buildings we own, some of the vehicles we own, the tooling we own, the machinery we own, and again, assets. The last thing I will leave you with is one of the lines from my mentor while I worked at Merrill Lynch. When I was working there, she had me do a security analysis on for a portfolio company, and she asked me to every ratio in the book. After doing every ratio in the book and finding out what the balance sheet said and what the stock price was and what the income statement was, she told me that I missed the most critical piece. And she said, "Who's the monkey running the show, Nick?" I thought that was pretty funny, but it's important. We've acquired a dream team of people who have already done it. Keep it simple, folks. If you want to get something done, get the people that have done it before together and watch it happen again. People build businesses. Businesses don't build themselves. When me and Roger sat down a year ago, our CEO, we put together a 5-year plan. Year 1, we would recruit the best of the best. Year 2, we would start acquisitions. We are ahead of schedule and have our team to thank for it. Just some highlights of some of the people that work for us, not their complete resumes, obviously. Like Peter Devone, not only worked at Unilever, but Colgate Palmolive, Hero Blackwell, not only GE Capital, but UBS Investments. But you see all the big names here that we seek: the City of Chicago, New York Stock Exchange, the Department of Defense, Ernst & Young, Walmart. And again, building the dream team was critical. So we thank you so much for your time. If you're interested in further discussions about how we can get together or make an investment in our company, feel free to reach out to us. Again, our stock ticker, DDDX, and our contact information is on the screen for you guys to reach out to us. Again, thank you for coming to this presentation. Hope everybody has a great day.